Tonight, the future collides with bioterror as mutant justice meets corporate evil in a battle where evolution takes a very wrong turn. Welcome back to another matchup from Who Would Win Masters. I am Sam Proof on all the socials, and in this episode, representing Marvel Comics, the time-traveling X-Man who absorbs and redirects energy but avoids cables. That's a deep cut, but not as deep as Wolverine's. It's Bishop. And representing Capcom, the scientist whose future's so bright he's got to wear shades because at the Umbrella Company, they've got you covered. It's Albert Wesker. Quick public safety reminder before we introduce today's guest. If you're feeling any of these symptoms, fever, muscle pain, intense fatigue, lethargy, nausea, dry mouth, occasional vomiting, or a biological urge to consume all living human flesh and organs, please have your doctor check you for T-virus today, or maybe chain yourself up in the basement. All right, our guest today is coming back to us. It's writer, artist, comic book aficionado, the blurred without fear, Ernie Carruthers himself. Ernie, last time you repped Storm, another X-Men. This time you're repping Bishop. I know you've been doing a lot of reacts to X-Men 97. Has that helped you prepare for today's match?
I feel like I got a little something in the tank. I've been watching X-Men 97. I've been eating my vitamins. I've been saying my prayers, and I've been studying all the best time travel movies. I think I have everything I need to step into this whole thing.
I'm going to need a quick top 3 of time travel movies right now. What do you got?
So
very personal interest.
So one of these off top, I'm going to say Back to the Future pretty much every time. Specifically the first one, because it's so good.
It's the best one, yeah.
Another one, I don't expect a lot of people to know this one, but it's called Time Crimes. It's a Spanish language movie that is about time travel, and I don't want to say anything more than that because it'll just ruin everything.
Okay, fair enough.
And the last one, the last one's a toughie because there's so many really good ones, but I guess I would have to want to pick, but you know what?
Nobody's going to hold
It'll be
to
less of a movie and more of a TV show, and it'll be Quantum Leap.
All right.
Because you always got to hope that the next leap is going to be the leap home.
Going to bring you home. All right. Now, to get us back on track, you are repping Bishop. Why did you pick this character?
Bishop is a character that is pretty important to my development as a kid because he was such an interesting character. He was a character I didn't like very much when I first encountered him, but I became a big fan of him later in life. Yeah, mostly because he was always trying to kill my favorite character. He was always trying to kill Gambit. So I was never really happy with him a lot of the time. But once he cooled down on that, I was like, okay. I was like, this guy can stay. He's fine. He's fine now. But no, I always thought his power was interesting. Just him being able to absorb energy directed at him and being able to redirect that energy, and his power has evolved a lot over the years and has basically kind of put him in a very interesting spot. So definitely a guy that definitely should probably take some anger management courses, but
right.
But other than that, he's okay. He's good now. He's good now.
Cool. All right, well, we'll find out more about him when we get started, and it is now time for this week's Tale of the Tape, which is brought to you by Brown M&Ms. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them, folks. It's all Van Halen's fault, so blame them. Brown M&Ms are perfectly fine and a delightful addition to your M&Ms bag. So stop asking to get them removed. You don't have a 50-page technical writer, so just knock it off. This message is brought to you by the American Federation for Brown M&Ms, who also want to add, to heck with Van Halen. Sorry for the French. Okay, tonight, we're diving back into a rugged rematch between the worlds of the X-Men and video games. First off, we have Bishop. Lucas Bishop is a mutant with the ability to absorb and redirect energy. As a member of an alternative future Earth, Bishop often does time travel as a member of Xavier's security enforcers, who later would go on to join the X-Men and his presence in a story typically meant that business was about to pick up. Bishop was created by Wills Patorsi and John Byrne and first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men 282 in 1991. Side note, not even in our text here, his character image was inspired by a picture of Gary Coleman featured on the Electric Company magazine. Yeah, I found that randomly while I was trying to figure out how to say Wills Patorsi. So yeah, go look for that. It's spot on. Like, it's not just like, oh, he's got overalls and a bandana. It's the shirt. It's everything. All right. On the video game side of things, we have Albert Wesker. Wesker is one of the original main antagonists of the Resident Evil video game series, both a genius virologist as well as the captain of the STARS team. Wesker underwent several transformations as the series went on, going from traitor to mastermind to super enhanced being to complete monster. Wesker was created by Shinji Mikami and Asao Ohishi, and first appeared in the original Resident Evil game back in 1996. Ernie, your opponent tonight, also has a lot in common with these characters. Not that he was created in the 90s, but it has been argued that he peaked there. It's Ray Stacanis. Ray, are you ready for another round of X-Men vs. video games?
I peaked in the 90s. How did you see inside my soul so deeply, Sam Proof? Look, am I ready for X-Men versus video games? I was born ready for X-Men versus video games. And Sam Proof, I want you right now. Ask me what my top 3 time travel movies are.
Oh, please. What are your top 3 time travel movies?
That's easy, Sam. It's Time Cop, and Time Cop. There's only one time travel movie worthy of my time,
incorrect,
sir.
And Terry Gilliam is rolling over in his grave right now.
Look, I'm a big Time Bandits fan, and I could have said Army of Darkness legitimately right there.
That works.
But I wanted to say Time Cop 3 times, quite honestly. The point I'm trying to make in all of this is, Ernie, you came on the show last time and took me to the limit. You gave me everything I could possibly hope for, and I feel like I didn't so much as win as escaped that matchup with Dante versus Storm. And I felt good about my performance. The people did side with me in this battle. And so here's an ultimate rematch of another X-Men character against another classic video game character. And both of us are sitting here in our wheelhouses as we discussed before the show tonight. And I am very fired up to throw down with you again, sir. And I look forward to another strong victory.
All right. Well, with that said, let's get into our rules in under a minute. Here are your rules for death, knockout, battlefield removal, or incapacitation. And number 5, after the battle, I will give my unofficial opinion as to who wins and why. However, I am just one voice. It will be up to all of you on our social media and our Patreon to make your voices heard as to who won. All right, and with that said, Ernie, as our guest, you will start us off with your point number 1, 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
So I'm just going to come straight out of the gate and say it. Look, Lucas Bishop, the man's dangerous. Man comes from one of the hardest futures in the history of comics. The guy literally grew up in adversity. The guy grew up basically living in what is effectively a mutant concentration camp. He had to fight off people who hated mutants. He had to fight off giant robots that hated mutants. He had to fight ladies crossing the street who hated mutants. He had to fight everybody off. Now, with that being said, that toughens a guy up. The guy also came up through the ranks of the XSE. This man is dangerous. He is trained in all kinds of different combat abilities. He's got all kinds of weapons that he can use. The man is also a mutant who has the power to absorb energy and things of that nature and use it to fuel himself. Now, that part's going to be a little weird because I know that our opponent he's mostly with the knifey stabby type. He also likes to slap people around with those little weird hentai tentacles and things of that nature too. But That's okay, though, because Bishop has an ace up his sleeve. This guy, he typically absorbs energy. But he can also take punishment that he gets hit with and use that to fuel his energy absorption. Basically, any type of energy that he gets hit with. Doesn't have to be laser beams, doesn't have to be telepathic blast, optic blast, whatever, anything like that. Sometimes it just be a good old-fashioned slap. So I think Bishop is going to walk into this fight. I think he's going to walk down to the ring. I think he's going to pontificate. He's going to stand on all 4 turnbuckles. And by the end of it, he's going to stand in the middle. The pyro's going to go off, and he's just going to go sit in the corner. And he's going to lounge because he knows that he's basically going to take this guy all the way to Suplex City, and he's going to walk back out the mayor. He knows it. Wesker knows it. The crowd knows it. Everybody knows it. Now,
30 seconds remaining.
If Bishop has any one thing he would probably have to worry about, is going to be that the Ouroboros. That's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. But Ouroboros, I'm pretty sure Bishop has had plenty of things he's faced way more dangerous, and he's walked out unscathed. So I welcome the challenge of Mr. Albert Wesker.
All right, well done, Ray. 3 minutes on the clock for your point number 1, starting now.
Well, you say it's one thing to say, oh, he's walked out of things way, way more difficult than Albert Wesker, even with the Ouroboros virus. And it's another thing to tell us what those things are, Mr. Blurred Without Fear. You can't just hide behind, well, on this show. I demand to hear exactly where you're coming from with that point. But let's go ahead and get back to my point, because my point is great. We're going to talk about the training and background of Albert Wesker. I wish I knew his middle name off the top of my head. That would have been an amazing way to go. Look, he displays clear use of Matrix-esque, that's a hard word to say, Matrix-esque kung fu and martial arts gun fu. He steals a little bit from Keanu Reeves. He steals a little bit from Deadpool, and he just makes it all work inside his own package. Look, early in life, Albert Wesker was injected with the virus in order to very nebulously help create highly successful people in their fields, which is an absolutely wild thing to do. I understand the Halo Spartan program. This is like that for people who will be really good at like tap dancing. I don't exactly understand it, but that's exactly what he did. And most of the kids in this program died, but he didn't. And they even called this program Project Wesker. Boy, I hope they called it that after he survived as opposed to before, because quite frankly, that's a lot of pressure for a young kid. Now, he went on to become successful in his field as a virologist for the Umbrella Corporation, getting his doctorate at age 17. So he's really smart. He's really good at this. And then he went ahead and made his parents, if they existed, proud to become leader of the Stars team on top of it. What did you do before you graduated high school? That's all I'm trying to say. Wesker, he was the captain and founder of the Stars team. That's like a special forces kind of a crew that they send into to areas that otherwise, you're just going to give up on because it's just too dangerous. It's just too difficult. Now, equipment-wise, Albert Wesker carries a custom Samurai Edge handgun. Now, this is awesome. It's also a heavily modified Beretta 92F with parabellum bullets. If I had watched John Wick 4, but I didn't because it was like 4 hours long, I'd probably be able to tell you what a parabellum bullet is. I can't, but I understand that it's good. I understand it could puncture things that maybe otherwise could not be punctured. On top of all of that, Wesker is a great marksman. We've seen him not just pick people off from across rooms. I saw him shoot down a chandelier from across the room by like shooting the rope. And he did that from across an entire like ballroom. That guy knows what he's doing with the gun. And I appreciate that Bishop can absorb energy, but he is vulnerable to like blunt force weapons. And let me tell you, Albert Wesker himself is a blunt force weapon.
All right, Ernie, you get 60 seconds for your first counterpoint. 60 seconds on the clock, starting now.
All right, so look, those are some nice accolades. Yeah, it's nice, but here's the thing. If he's gonna be swinging those tentacles around, I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb and say that does the guy hit as hard as a Nimrod? Does he hit as hard as a Sentinel? Does he swing as hard as a cable? And I'm not talking about like your internet service provider or your TV package. I'm talking about premium cable. Nathan Summers. This guy's gone to war with another time traveling mutant with abilities that even in some ways dwarf Bishop's own. Bishop is used to fighting from behind. He's used to fighting against adversity. And honestly, I think that, there's one thing that I can say about Albert Wesker, for all of his great power, for all of his his gun fu and all that stuff. There's one guy who I know for a fact has been able to take Albert Wesker to his limit. And it's just a regular dude. Regular Dash Man trademark, Chris Redfield.
All right, cut you off there. It's a strong start. We got the basis of our playing field, the energy absorption and redirection. Whether or not we get a whole lot of use out of that, I'm not quite sure just yet. And Wesker's accolades and all of that. And I'm especially proud that you already clarified for our viewing audience the cable reference I made earlier. So thank you for that. So at least they can go back and be like, oh, yes, that was funny. I get it now. I'm in the know. And we'll see what other funny things happen after this break. All right, we're back. Let's get into point number 2. Ernie, you're up with 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
So, the thing with Bishop that I've always found really interesting is this is a guy who, once again, he has lived a pretty wild life. Guys, lived in the future. He's now lived in the past. But there is something that I will say that about Bishop that not many people could say. See, Wesker, let's go ahead and be honest. He's an SOB. This guy betrayed his own people. Guy literally led his own team, the team that he put together, stars, led them into the lion's den or the zombies' den, as it were. So it takes a pretty unscrupulous person to do something of that magnitude. But see, I'm going to give you one better, because what's worse than leading your own friends into a killing field is to lead your own friends into a whole revolution, a whole civil war. Bishop is no stranger to doing dirty things. The guy literally betrayed the entirety of the X-Men and literally made his whole personality going after the X-Men just to take out one kid. So, I mean, this is a guy who's not scared to cross the limit. He's not scared to go up against people with bigger numbers than himself. And once again, well, yes, we might not see much of the energy absorption going on, unless, maybe if Wesker throws those bullets around. But here's something else we can't forget. Bishop typically keeps a pretty big gun on him, one that's a lot bigger than a gun that Wesker might want to throw around. And those bullets, while they might not be parabellum, those bullets are definitely lasers. And we also can't forget that if, for whatever reason, any energy that Bishop is able to absorb in the middle, beginning, or end of this fight is only going to make him stronger. It's not just going to be concussive blast getting shot out. We're talking this guy is going to be getting superhuman strength based on these absorptions. He's going to be increasing his durability. And I would also like to remind people that, once again, Wesker has been defeated by people who are not super strong. Now, he's definitely tough to defeat, and it takes a lot to take him down. But I think Bishop has more than enough tricks up his sleeve, regardless of whether it's unleashing the weaponry that he keeps on him, because he does keep a lot of crazy futuristic stuff
30 seconds remaining.
I'm pretty sure that anything that Ouroboros has, that Wesker can throw out, he's going to be able to lay every last single one of those things down. Any obstacle that Wesker puts in front of Bishop is as good as cinders, a pile of ash, once Lucas Bishop gets to shooting.
All right, Ray, 3 minutes on the clock, starting now.
Well, that's very, very interesting for you to say right there. I still feel that Albert Wesker is a superhuman character, and I believe Bishop has some superhuman capabilities to him, but Wesker is there from the beginning, the middle, and the end because of his progenitor virus that he injected himself with during the events of Resident Evil 1. This is a virus that was created with his very good friend William Birkin. William Birkin being the scientist who created the T-virus, very popular in Resident Evil 2 for you kids at home. And this has infused him with superhuman capabilities. I'll start with his durability, because I agree Bishop is a very durable kind of a character, but you can beat him down with blunt force trauma enough that he's not going to be able to necessarily come back from it. And I've seen Albert Wesker get hit with a steel bar, just cracked with it right there in the shoulder, and the bar bent and Wesker didn't. He didn't even flinch. He just sort of stared at him, and at that point you're like, uh-oh, I might be in trouble here. This is a guy who was not phased when very close explosions went off in his immediate vicinity, and that includes directly in his hands in front of his face. We'll talk about that in a sec. He blocked a knife attack with his arm. He didn't parry it. He just stuck out his arm and let the person stab him because he's like, nah, I got your knife now. And then he just kept on going. This is a guy who got clawed through by a tyrant in the first Resident Evil game and was able to recover because of this virus, right? He had steel beams dropped on his head and it staggered him, but he was able to keep on going. Now, his strength is also incredible. He often grabs characters, his big move. He grabs a character by the neck and then just holds them up in the air with one hand. He does it roughly 72 times per video game that he can be found in after assuming superpowers. Now, when he hits you, you tend to go flying through the air, even if you are Chris Redfield, who I would also argue is superhuman in many ways. Who else can punch a boulder like that, I would ask you? Not a regular person, I'll tell you that. But he could also pick up Wesker Cam and throw missiles. At the final scene of one of the five Resident Evil 5, he's just picking up Stinger missiles and throwing them at you. He's not messing around. And this is a guy, remember when I said the explosion happened in his hands and face? That's because somebody shot an RPG rocket at him, and he just held out his hands like he was Calvin Johnson in his prime and just caught it and just let it wave around in his face before it exploded, and he was fine, for the record. But speed. I think speed makes a big difference against Bishop, because Bishop's not the fastest guy, but Wesker has wall-running combat before Titanfall 2 even came out. This is a guy who moves faster than Earth, faster than the eye could see. Earth, maybe. Faster than the eye could see, even in his first video game. He dodges gunfire at point-blank range, and he fights so fast, it's like watching Nightcrawler fight. And I don't know if Bishop can hang with Nightcrawler. Maybe I'll find out in a second.
Well, that second is here, plus 59 more. Ernie, you have 60 seconds on the clock for your counterpoint, starting now.
It's funny you mentioned the things that Wesker can withstand, because he can withstand his fair share of those things too. Well, yeah, typically we've talked about lasers and things of that magnitude, but once again, bullets, rockets, explosions. I mean, yeah, they might hurt a little bit. But he's also going to be able to take any energy he gains from that. He can also use that same energy to rebuild himself, to heal his own wounds. Anything he absorbs is going to increase his strength. It is also going to increase his stamina and his speed to make him much faster. And at this particular point in time, Bishop has yet to find an upper limit to any of that. And I would even go as far as to say, depending on what it is, Wesker's doing, with Ouroboros at the time, I'm pretty sure that if there's a boulder nearby that could be knocked into a volcano, Bishop is going to have more than enough gas in the tank to knock that boulder in there. He'll hit all the QTEs. He'll be able to button mash everything all the way out. Yeah, and trust me, Not for the faint of heart. No normal person can do that, but he'll be able to do it.
All right. I don't know if our neutral location has a volcano, but if there were missiles, I do believe that that point is fairly made. And I guess we'll see how this all comes together in our point number 3 after this break. All right, Ernie, it's time to wrap it up and take us home with your path to victory in point number 3. 3 minutes on the clock starting now.
So it comes down to this. We got these two titans in the side of video games and the side of comics doing battle with one another, but I think it's going to really ultimately come down to who's going to want it more. And I think one of the things that I feel like has always kind of been Albert Wesker's problem is that he's cocky. He doesn't think he can be beaten. And that's usually where people slip up. You see, Bishop is a battlefield tactician. The guy has literally led entire combat scenarios. This guy trains other X-Men in how to use their abilities. This guy teaches other people, how to lead and how to assess a battlefield. And I feel like, Wesker's definitely no slouch, in the combat training area of things. He's definitely smart. We're not going to take that away from him. Who else makes all those viruses and goes through all that without coming out a little bit smarter? But I feel like Bishop himself, I feel like he would be able to take advantage of Wesker's cockiness, no differently than other people have done to him. Wesker thinks he can't be hurt. He thinks that he can't be killed. He thinks that he is incapable of being taken down by anybody. He'll probably, especially because Bishop is a mutant, he'll probably see Bishop as his lesser, making him even more cocky to want to lord over his power, lord over his crowning achievement of Ouroboros over him. And I honestly do believe Bishop would be able to take advantage of that. I think Wesker would not be able to resist the opportunity to grandstand, to pontificate. Was it one of his famous lines? 7 minutes. He thinks he's going to be able to win it like that. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think if you're a guy who can stand toe-to-toe with indestructible, self-repairing machines, self-repairing killing machines, I think a guy like Wesker, well, yes, he will definitely be a challenge. I think if you can stand toe-to-toe with a Nimrod, I think you could stand toe-to-toe against a guy with weird tentacly arms and, a very impressive collection of sunglasses. Regardless of their neo
30 seconds remaining.
The thing is, whatever Wesker is able to throw at Bishop, he's going to be able to weather the storm. And Bishop is nothing if not a stubborn SOB. And is more than happy to let the fight go as long as he wants because it'll only benefit him more.
All right, Ray, 3 minutes on the clock for your point number 3, starting now.
I don't know what this big deal about standing toe-to-toe with a Nimrod is. I did it for years, and I'm still doing just fine. It wasn't even that hard, honestly. The point I'm trying to make here is we're going to talk about some of the great feats of Albert Wesker, the hero of the Resident Evil series. I'll say it out loud right now. This is a man who defeated both Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine in a 1v2 situation. They actually went back in a later video game and said, we're going to reimagine some of the last events of Resident Evil 1, and it's just him cleaning their clocks for like 3 straight minutes, and it's amazing. He looks like he's not even moving. He's just warping around the area, not being able to be shot, while he's not even looking at the person he's aiming. It's go watch that cutscene. It's amazing. He's also played around with Chris Redfield and Sheva 1v2, and as you said, he had 7 minutes to play with them. I don't think it's because he was being cocky, though. I think it's because he's a true mastermind, and he knew he only had 7 minutes in his plan worked out. This is a good schedule maker. not necessarily someone who's overly cocky. Now, did he think he was going to pull away with it? He could have killed them at any moment in that battle, but he has his one weakness is he lets certain heroes live because he's trying to get their respect at the end of the day. I don't know that Bishop falls under that category because I've seen him kill people. He doesn't care if he gets their respect or not. What can I say? In short, he is a mastermind. He thinks well beyond the moment he's in to the moments that have yet to happen because that's the kind of analytical genius that Albert Wesker is. And yes, you've mentioned it several times in this episode. I have not mentioned it until this moment. He does eventually become a full-blooded Ouroboros monster at the end of Resident Evil 5. What does that mean for him? It means that the tentacle power is inside of him in truly horrifying ways. These are what I would refer to as extreme tentacles. They could fly, they could grow, they could slap you from across a volcano, they can throw at you, they can pick you up. It's crazy. He could pick up other stuff with it, and now he's got like a weird makeshift hammer, but like with a tanker. Like he's crazy. He's become very, very powerful. And it also not just improves his strength, it improves his brain power as well, if you can believe that. The smartest guy in the room just got smarter because of the Ouroboros power. Finally, he gets defeated one time in Resident Evil 5 when he was half submerged in lava and hit by 2 rockets at the same time. And even that, it's been argued, was a clone. It's been argued that that wasn't even the real Albert Wesker, but a less powerful clone, and he's going to come back in a later installment. Look, the other thing I'll say about Bishop is there is an upper limit to his capacity. It does have a limit. If he absorbs too much energy without letting it go, his body can get overwhelmed and it can cause him to explode himself, taking him out of the battle. I think if Wesker beats him down just enough, it's going to be plenty for him to blow up and lose this fight.
All right, Ernie, you have 60 seconds on the clock to make your third and final counterpoint starting now.
You know, yes, Bishop, yeah, he could be overwhelmed with power because he can't really control how much he absorbs, but it takes such a high amount to reach that point. And even if he does, the blast alone, while it would be devastating, it would be devastating to more than him. It would be devastating to any and everything around him. The excessive energy blasts that he's let off in the past have literally been enough to crumble mountains, to literally shake the earth to its core. So I think the last thing that Albert Wesker wants, considering the history that he has had, with mountains and crumbling and things of that magnitude, I think the last thing that Albert wants is for Bishop to go supernova with his absorption abilities. But at the same time, I think he would believe that he would be perfectly incapable of being destroyed by such a thing. And I mean, who knows?
All right, as always, Ray has not had counterpoints throughout the show, but he does get the final thought. So, Ray, whenever you're ready.
You know, I'm a fan of Bishop. I'm a fan of the X-Men time travel stories. And I'm a fan of Resident Evil. Look, I'm wearing my Umbrella Corporation t-shirt to tell you what side I'm on here. And I will, and you talked about Albert Wesker being, a real scumbag. And he really is. He led the STARS team to get combat data. He led the STARS team just to see how well they would fight against his bioterrorists. And at the end of it, he didn't just sell out the STARS team. At his one point in the story, he sold out the Umbrella Corporation and went to a rival corporation. So this is not a guy you could trust to secure an NDA, if you know what I'm saying. It's not the guy you want on your side for that. But when it comes to a fight between these two characters, I think Wesker comes a little bit too hard, too quickly. It seems to me like Bishop needs to build up to being strong enough to hang with Albert Wesker. So I'm to assume that Wesker has to play around with him perhaps more than usual, and he can take this sort of blunt force action from Wesker. I don't think that that's the case. I think that once Wesker starts Nightcrawler, warping around, punching, kicking, grabbing him up in the air, I think that Bishop's going to be in some trouble. And if he has that big gun, that might be enough to stave off Wesker initially. But I just don't, you can't shoot Wesker in these video games. I've tried. It just doesn't work very well. You really got a cutscene, a QTE him in order to really bring him down. The point through all of this, though, is I got great respect for Bishop. I think that you've done a wonderful job representing him factually today. And I just think Albert Wesker, as the villain upon villains, would totally get over on Bishop. Now, the question is, if Bishop gets pushed to his limit and Bishop explodes, doesn't that just mean he dies first? I guess that's not necessarily the case, is it? I don't know. But I think it would count as a defeat before Wesker would 1 second later potentially get blown up in the blast. That's my final thought on that.
All right, guys, well done. It is time for me to jump back in time somehow, review all the points that have been made, and as some other time traveler nobody else has heard of said once, I'll be back with my decision.
Sam has weighed all the points made. Two figures met in collision. Now let's find out who would win. It's time to hear Sam's decision.
All right, well done, gentlemen. This was I didn't know what to expect going into this. It felt like these were two people met for other battles that just happened to be, what you guys wanted to do, which is what it was, I guess. And look, Ernie started us off with a short list of Bishop's history and training, powers, and of course his very big gun. But the core of his abilities are, of course, the power absorption and energy redirection to buff his already superhuman strength, durability, and healing. So when facing off against a human tweaker, a Wesker, hopped up on, I guess we're going to call it anti-super soldier virus, who is mostly melee and hentai tentacle attacks, is the trade-off of kinetic energy absorbed versus the damage taken parallel, even if the bullets are parabellum. I don't know. We'll get into it. Ray brought us in on the Wesker train with what is likely the only time successful virologist will be a talking point for a character on this show. Of course, it didn't take long before he traveled down the who's got a bigger gun path and who's got the hentaiest tentacles and maybe some missiles. Hentai or not, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that while bullets might be a power trade-off to repair the damage done, a missile explosion, as counterintuitive as that sounds, feels like a win for Bishop in that balance, and he's going to pull in that energy. Ernie made the point that given the chance to play into Wesker's ego, he'd grandstand for his quote-unquote 7 minutes, and that alone might arguably be a self-imposed 2-minute battlefield removal, but we're going to keep going and let Zombie Doc Op head into the next talking point here and keep his head in the game. Wesker's got a franchise worth of feats, including fighting Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, which I don't know if that's as impressive as, tons and tons of zombies might be. But I do think that one of Ray's biggest points was that if Bishop takes on too much energy, he's going to pop. He's going to hit a breaking point. Wesker is smart, but is he smart enough to figure out exactly what that breaking point is without simply giving Bishop the advantage? That feels like a nice dream to go along with those nice accolades. But also, I'm honestly shocked that Ernie didn't use Bishop's ability to time travel to manipulate this battle. But at the end of the day, whether you're night crawling around the battlefield or looking for a volcano to drop a boulder in, for me, the guy that beat Nimrod takes this, which is good, because as Ray said, he likes the X-Men, and I'm giving this to Bishop. Quick side note, I do think we need a shirt that says, "Those bullets are lasers." Well done, Ernie. In my eyes, Bishop takes this one. We're going to toss it to the Patreon community and see what they have to say. So make sure you have joined us over at patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters to make your vote count. Yeah. Ernie, thoughts?
It's the outcome that I feel is right and and I'm gonna accept it. I'm gonna accept it. And you know what? I didn't want to introduce unusual elements. I didn't see. I wanted to keep it fair for Wesker, keeping the time travel off the table, because then it just would have been a foregone conclusion. But we don't want to go messing up the time stream or anything like that, just to piece up Albert Wesker. But I do want to. I do want to say that shout out to my opponent across the aisle, for bringing A game, for making me have to like stay on top of my toes, to make me recall so much of the Bishop lore that I had tucked away in the deepest, darkest recesses of my mind, because Wesker is a much tougher customer than I initially wanted to give credit for. Yeah, I mean, once again, I still have nightmares about button mashing, punching a boulder, which to this day, Capcom, go to hell for that.
Fair
but
enough.
Yes, I am now reminded. Yeah, Wesker's a bad dude. He's a bad dude.
That's true. That's true. Ray, do you have any thoughts you want to throw out there?
We had Roger Craig Smith, voice of Chris Redfield, on the show in the previous iteration a few different times. And I did specifically ask him about what is it like as an actor to have to punch a boulder. And from what I remember, I learned an acting masterclass in that moment. Truly one of the most talented. Shout out to Roger Craig Smith. Just wanted to shout that out there. But not shout out to Sam's decision today. I think Albert Wesker beats Bishop into a bloody pulp and then picks him up with the tentacles and tears him apart. I don't see how Bishop hangs with a character as strong, as fast, as durable. He's like all the X-Men put together, but he's Albert Wesker. And I will say, I remember that holy crap moment when I was playing Resident Evil Code Veronica back when it first came out in like 1999 or 2000, whenever it was, on the Sega Dreamcast. What a marvelous system that was. And all of a sudden, Wesker shows up with super speed and glowing red eyes. And I, an intellectual, go, he's a vampire now. No, Ray, obviously that's not what's going on. And it took me far too many years after having that thought to realize how stupid a thought that was. Ernie, I'm going to congratulate you on getting Sam's decision today. But the people at home can go to patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters and vote for the Umbrella Corporation. Look, we're here to serve you. We're here to make your life better. One Arclays mansion incident at a time.
People, this is your chance to stand up against the capitalist machine and the Umbrella Corporation and Ray. So there you go.
Ernie, a real trifecta you got going there, Sam.
There you go. There you go. Ernie, do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on youtube.com/Blur Without Fear. Blur Without Fear everywhere, really, if you just really want to. And yeah, I post lots of videos all the time, live stream twice a week. And I tell you, I don't talk about this enough, but if you're into comics and you want to read a comic, you can read the first issue of my comic, Heart of the Darkness, on globalcomics.com. So yeah, or on the Global Comics app, because there's an app too. So yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. I didn't even know that my own self.
I love that.
All right. Thank you for joining us. And I hope we see you again in a future episode or next week on the wrap up, whenever we do that. Ray, any last words?
My last words have a lot in common.
Well,
with
that's enough
my
for that.
thoughts. What is happening right now? No, I was just pontificating there. Don't mind me. I think this was an absolutely tremendous battle. I'm so happy we could have Ernie Carruthers come back on. Honestly, I was worried that after the first battle between Dante and Storm and how well I performed in that battle, he would now have to rebrand himself the Blurred with a Little Fear. And thankfully, he came back on the show to prove his own moniker. And I do appreciate you coming on. I'd love to see you come on back for the wrap up next week. And let's be a part of what the people have to say. It's because it's really, at the end of the day, it's about the people. This is my really weak way of saying, go on our Patreon and vote for me. What's wrong with you?
Or just agree with me. It's fine. We'll be back on the wrap-up show, breaking down your votes, pulling in your comments, reading your 5-star reviews from the Spotify and the Apple and all of that, and comments from the Discord to see who's riding on Team Sam. And, you can keep the fight going over on that Discord. Find the link for that on our Patreon and go find the official poll for this battle and go vote at patreon.com/whowouldwinmasters. And if you think you've got what it takes to jump into the challenger's chair, record a 1-minute video demo of yourself, send it to us at whowouldwinmasters@gmail.com. And who knows, we might see you sitting across from Ray in a future episode. For Who Would Win Masters, this is Sam Proof. I'll see you in the arena.